Hello, Nell. How's Joburg today?
I'm very well. Sun is shining here. I haven't rushed back to put on extra things. I just got up and put them on straight away because I know this is a cold place.
Yes, but you have that lovely heater in the studio. Big old asbestos thing that I'm missing. I want to sit there with you right now, not be in Cape Town.
Yeah, you know that old thing. It never fails. Huh? like,
Yes.
like old
Anyway,
things, they don't fail.
but it's on the background. The heater is on the background, and I want to talk to you about the background today. Okay, so just to let you know, I've been transcribing all the beautiful sessions you've been having with amazing people. I haven't seen all these discussions you had. And so, transcribing all the discussions you had, it seems like you are surrounding yourself with people who are practicing this thing that you are trying to teach us, which is what I'm getting from it is about interdependence and how we need one another to have an understanding of something. Um, and so we've had this whole journey with you going from where Amanda went through your whole childhood to with you, and Willem went through your career with you, and wonderful Frank and Lizelle really got into the thing, taking your journey with you from Paris through the Cubism, and then coming to the deep principles, and where everybody reflects back to you what you're saying to us. It's amazing the interpretations, how it's making this picture become really clear what it is that you've been painting.
I'm so glad you're doing this. It's a huge job.
it's, so I think it's going to become a bit of a book in the end. So this is what I've seen. What I've seen is happening. All of us want you to be the 90-year-old sage that teaches us the lessons of the spirit. But you just keep giving us all these tricky answers about form and light and the object and the background. And then we become a bit impatient with you. Me and Lizelle, like, very pointedly asked you at some point, but what are these damn questions that you had when you went to Paris? And I think as I went through the discussion, eventually it became clear to me, just to put it in a nutshell, rudely, that by breaking open the object in your work, you have been wanting to invite the background in to be a partner in the work. And you once told me the reason why you do this work is because that is the lesson for us as humans, that we use the earth as our background. And we are this big, important object, putting ourselves to the foreground, and the earth is just this background all the time. And I think what I've seen in all these discussions is we had a lot of concentration about that object again, about breaking it open and that. And I don't think we've had the courage yet to really, really talk about the background. And so can we do that today? And you can maybe show us in that lamp how you really brought the background in and made it work as hard as the object.
Yes, let us do it, because that is the whole secret of the process. Because first you break the thing, but you stop there, you reach nowhere. Your background remains inactive. You can't paint or draw movement. And you remember, movement is what I was looking for. The Cubists were looking for it. The futurists declared a war on it. They were going to paint movement, and they also, after 3 great successes, they also didn't manage. So I just pushed through. Remember what Einstein said? There's nothing special about, he said, nothing special about me, only I stayed with the problem longer. And I certainly stayed with the problem of portraying or painting energy, movement, motion. I certainly stayed with that problem longer. And that's why I managed something that satisfies me. I think I have made little energy images. And that is not an, an object moving. That's nothing. I want the movement of, in and through and around that object to count, because that is motion. As we move, we disturb the air, we're part of everything. But I only got to that when I started looking back. You know, the process, you don't see these things. You only see them afterwards. You're amazed because they fit in. But you were not aware of it at the time. You had to struggle through it. But it was a joyous, very difficult, often painful, but it was a struggle that I enjoyed. I couldn't do without it.
I wanted to tell you after all these talks about the object breaking open and the background, because I wanted to talk about the background to you. Yesterday I was standing at our flay, our estuary that's close to the house, and there were a lot of ducks swimming on the estuary and moving around. And I thought, if Nel was here, she would be interested in the movement. And I thought, no, do not concentrate on the objects. Concentrate on the background. And what I did was I stopped following one duck and then another one and trying to see what was the movement between them. I only concentrated on the spaces between the ducks. In other words, the water, the ground, the grass. And it was so amazing when I made those objects go out of focus. I did actually see the movement because it gave me the wide picture. And I could see the movement happen without being confused about the objects moving around. And so it really does work. In one of your discussions with all these lovely people, you said that. You said about look at the background, not at the object, and you will see the movement between the two. So I don't know, do you want to maybe show us that one cubistic lamp that you did, how you did that with the background?
Yes, I will, but I just want to tell you first that it's always straights and curves. And don't forget, that's why I show you this again, because the boats were the masts, the straights, the squares, the staccato, the quick, rapid movements. They were there.
No, bring it up again. Bring it back.
You saw it?
And won't you just turn it? Yeah, there, because it had a reflection on it. So won't you just show with your hands again how these things you're talking about?
You know, we looked at, when the thing was there, we looked at the horizon and the sky and at the masts playing and moving and shifting. And they created blocks that rapidly followed on one another, of straight line blocks, but of different shapes. And they really mixed. They had a dance. They had a glorious time. But the movement in the boat, in the hull, that was different because it was a flowing one. And that was a difficult one. This was easy. You know, the early Cubists also did this. Villon did the new descending from the staircase. Kupka did such things. I have been to lots of bottles doing that too. But there was the flow that I was looking for, the flow in this boat. And then came the lamps. I just loved the lamp, the globe, as you may remember. But you see,
can I just ask now?
Yeah.
Now, can I ask you? So what you're saying is, when I look at that, that was the first place. Just to give some context, the first place where you discovered what it was that you wanted to do is when you were at the Torre del Mar in Spain. You were at the Torre del Mar in Spain and sitting there with your friend and the sailors and the fishermen. I mean, and you were. They were rolling cigarettes and you were all smoking together, and you looked up and you saw these masts doing that, and you only drew the masts. But I think what you are asking us today is to look at the blocks. I heard you saying that, right? To look at the blocks that those masts caused. And as you said it, I saw it. So by not only looking at the masts, but looking at the blocks that the masts caused on the background, that's what creates the movement for the eye, right?
Yeah. I think you really put your finger on it. But anyway, the curve remained, and that was a problem. And then the lamp came and solved it for me. But I didn't know it again. I could see it afterwards in this very abstract, cubistic still thing, you see. It's very cubist if you look. Now, it reflects its own shape in the background, even its own square shapes here it reflects in the background. Now there's an interchange. Now they're talking to one another. And this conversation, this relationship continues as the lamp is going on. And I show you the next one. You see here, this circular movement. This is the body where the oil is collected. The foot is a round one. It circulates and it has this, in a way, slow staccato movement of shapes following up on one another. So they move together. But it is extending itself. In the other one, it's extending it more. And in this one, even more. But here, the background is just coming forward and firmly saying, here I am. The darkness here on the darkness there. And this one...
What is that one's title? Huh? Is that the ochre lamp?
No, the ochre lamp is that one I've just shown you.
Okay, and what is this one's name? Balanced Black Light.
Oh, I don't know what I called it. I've forgotten that. Sorry, I disappoint you. And this one is again that sort of circling up. But you see how it has now extended itself happily into the background. The background comes in, it goes out. They all line up. They all have a relationship to one another. They follow through. And it's those links where the one stops, the other one takes over. The one stops here, the other one takes over. It jumps across, it echoes there. And that gives you that feeling of unity, and it creates many walks your eyes can take in that picture. Today some, tomorrow some, and yeah. That was what I was trying there. Does that reply to you? And then, of course,
yes.
Color comes into it. Color comes into it too. Color is an added something very nice, because look at that more cubist one and look at this one. Of course,
Can you keep that red lamp up? So I want to read what we put in the.
I've forgotten what.
The things that we really distilled into the book that we're busy with. So this one I think is called Orange and Red Glow.
Yeah.
It was painted in 1963,
Isn't this a green glow? No.
I don't know. I'm not sure which ones we're dealing with. Anyway, but I mean, all of them describe sort of the relationship of the light and the background. And so I'll read this one. That's lamp light, black and white. I think maybe hold the ochre lamp up, and then I'll read what we wrote about the ochre lamp.
You mean this one?
Yeah, is that the ochre lamp?
That's it.
Okay.
Oopsie.
In this early lamp painting with its earthy tones, the top luminous ball breaks into the background in a determined and bold cubistic way. The two light areas that it causes, where are these two light areas? The two light areas that it causes are now concentrated on the opposite sides of the picture, with top right and left bottom communicating among the opposing curved shapes at the top and the angular shapes at the bottom. So circles, diagonals, and right angles all play together around this light source. The lamp and the background space begin to communicate and move into one another.
Thank you, Robert. Yeah.
That's what you said, not what I said.
But much better.
So I'd just like to add to it. I mean, there's in this brochure we're making about the lamps, there's a lot of talk about how, and Frank also mentioned it in one of his talks, where these lamps seem to be about the light. But I think the light is the motion and the movement, because the light moves from the lamp to the background and pulls the background in to have this relationship between the two.
Yes, and now to show that movement in a picture is the problem, because the light, diffused light, moves like water in the boats. In a way, it moves amorphously. But in painting, you want to reconstruct. And it's in reconstructing from deconstructing. You see, the Cubist thing was deconstructed. Now you must reconstruct. And it's in that process of reconstruction that you become so aware of the new space shapes having a relationship with the older remains of the object. And those relationships put a whole new play into your work process, into your awareness, into everything. And that is where the message, the spiritual message of abstract painting comes in beautifully. Because in abstract painting, it is these relationships, these tensions, these interdependences that become of crucial importance. They become the content because the object is gone. It's an abstract. Now that is the new content, and that asks for a much greater awareness. When you work, when you look. So if you're more aware, you are becoming clearer. And I think that greater awareness that we all are developing through these awarenesses of those basic human and universal values and spiritual laws of, to say it again, of balances, fine tensions, tenuous things. And all these relationships and these interdependencies, if we become aware of them and we become balanced, then we have a different world. And are we perhaps climbing up on a spiral of evolution? Maybe we're gradually doing this. I think there may be some truth to it. Slowly, of course, ever so slowly, we may just have a tiny little germ now. Not now, but since a while back. I don't know when.
So thank you. That's, yeah. I will have to go transcribe that again to be able to absorb it. I'm so glad we're recording these things. So one of the questions, I went back on all the notes that we've been doing in the last 2 years, and one of the questions I asked you long ago, which was interesting how we keep revisiting things so that we can understand them.
Yeah.
Because we don't understand them the first time.
Well, it took me 70 years. What do you expect? We must take a long time.
And so I think we should all be kind to one another in this process and to ourselves and know that it will take us a long time, another 7 decades to really understand these. I think you're not going to like this word, but these prophecies that you brought us in your work.
No, it's the painting that shows us these spiritual
values.
Yes,
the painting, yes.
Yep.
I wasn't convinced from the beginning. I kept on saying to you, why are you keep telling us about the damn object in the background and that? I'm not interested. It's like artists talking to one another. But I think I've learned now that, anyway, I'm going to ask you rather, like I asked you, why does art have the responsibility of spirituality? Why does art have to answer the question of spirituality? Not science. I mean, who's going to answer those questions? The scientists or the artists?
I think they both do. There we come again. To the person I do admire so much. And that is Einstein again saying that art, spirituality, and science are all branches of the same tree. And you agree, do you? You can't help it.
I don't know. You said something at some point about there's an accusation on art that art is just all in the mind, but then you debunked it by saying it's not all in the head, it's also in the fingers. And so I was interested in that relationship between the spiritual and the body that the artist enacts.
You know, Fosse Jong wrote beautiful things about the heart, the hand and the head, because they are so interlinked, as you know. Sometimes you have to write a thing down to remember it, to make sense. I mean, that finer movements and yeah, so fine. I mean, it goes beyond our imagination. It is in the hand, and it is in the hand of that mind. So those two are in such a fine balance. I mean, it goes beyond us. But you see it if you look at a line drawn by 2 different, 5, 10 different people, or a line etched, or a line on a graphic stone. They all differ, and it is that hand-mind thing that somehow never grows old. You know, somehow, I don't know, painting always comes back. So many times we've thought it's dead, but it always comes back. I think it is that inner relationship that we look at it and it's a tactile thing, it's a sensuous thing in a way, and it's a mind thing in another way. And we can carry it around. We can take it where we go. So I think it's a useful object. I think.
Yes, I mean this answers the question for me about the connection between bodiliness and the mind. But I'm going a bit far away from what I'm actually trying to lead us to, and that is you had a lovely discussion with Jessie about all the principles. About tension and motion and the spirit and about the crab that's on the ground and then the heart that is in between in your paintings with her, and then the sky is the limit, which is reaching up. And then I said, I think it's time that we talk about the body and the body paintings that you've made, and how all those principles come together that we want to talk about is about what humans need to learn about being in their environments with their bodies. And I think all those lessons are, have you got maybe some body paintings that you can show us and talk to us about how it all comes together in the body?
Well, Robert, I mean, the body has everything. It stretches in all directions because it's got everything. And this is sort of the start of this whole lot, which I will show you in a minute. I was very aware of my 2 sides, left and right. And then these 2 sides, it felt to me as if they were moving in like big mountains coming together, and then there's a valley that they create between them. And that valley became the spine, and there is the body sitting, linking those 2. And the head, it just became a moon, and the bottom, it came from a model posing with a bum in 2 parts, and this came also from a model posing with the arms lifted up, and she was a very full-bodied person, and the muscles here and here really created a dip like that. And there was the spine holding them straight. So from this old picture came all those other ones, more simplified. You see, now it's not left and right, now it's top and bottom, because we are like that. We are left and right, we are top and bottom. And sometimes these 2 actually almost split, or they do split. But the back it is that vertical is so firm, it just keeps them there, but they balance on that one. So the bottom comes up like a mountain, the top comes down like a cup, and the arms go this one, and the earth pushes in between the buttocks in that shape to compress this body more. And that gave rise to this one, I think, which you have also seen before. This is also stressing the diagonals. Because, you know, a cross like that is static and one like that keeps rolling. Huh? And this is the body. It does all sorts of things.
Can you, I think, talk more about where are all these things that we're talking about? Where's the background and where's the emotion and where's the power and the energy and talk more about how things lose themselves with one another.
That was the old background. That's the sky pushing in on the body. The body's just got to accept it. That's the earth, the background, pushing into the body. Again, the body just has to accept it. This is the body pressing out with its arms and its legs. And in between, the space of these almost disappear and becomes free and just extends into those two original mountains, left and right, continuing. But you can see it even better in the next one.
I remember you once telling me, I think one of the times I realized that you keep talking about the human body as an object that the artist is interested in. And I thought, yes, of course, we're all looking at it. But what you then said is that we are all constantly being pressed on by the air, being pressed on by the atmosphere around us. And we try to ignore it, but we are constantly pushing back at it and being pulled by gravity. And, the atmosphere pushing down on us. And that discussion made me so conscious of, okay, I'm not just this object that is all powerful. I am constantly being pressed on, and it's push and pull with my environment every day. And the consciousness of that made me so aware of the constant movement, even if it's small movement that's being pressed on me, and when I press against when I move.
I think I must then show you a few more of that same period. Was 60, 67, 66, 67, when I came back to absolutely full-time work. But just let me finish with this one before you see. This is supposed to let you feel the infinite stretch that you're capable of. Anyway, your mind can travel around the world in 80 days or in 8 minutes or in 8 split seconds. So, whoop, there you go. I've got other, but I didn't take it out for you this morning, but where the outside really presses on the body, like in the waist, It also presses beautifully sometimes, and that pressure is then continued onto the breast and the tummy. Here it is the tummy. As I said, she was very well built and beautifully proportioned, but she was big. And there she's sitting with the two sides of the body pressing against one another. Then there is the other one, where I've less defined the body. You don't feel the body, but you feel just the pressure. Again, meeting at the center, meeting place of the body, the opposite side of the spine. So it's this pushing, this bigger lot pushing against this smaller lot. This is a bit lighter in tone, this is a bit more forceful in color, to emphasize that pressure down the middle. This line is drawing the body, the legs, the bum, the back, the shoulders, and the breast, and down again. You see the body shape here. The head is somewhere there. And these are all the pressures that coming onto the body. And when I showed Clem Greenberg these, he wrote a beautiful letter back that really gave me courage to continue. He said, wow, an explosion seems to have taken place. And they are original. And I mean quality. Ah, he said nice things. It was heaven. So that is so much for the body in these positions, and then I can just show you a little more about the body when it lies down, because these are all more or less upright. You see, that is on the lying down figure. It's diagonal, a diagonal composition, placing, and you see the line, the bluish line, indicating the spine, and the top, the air part, is on the top of the spine, the earth part on the bottom of the spine, and the body is just drawing itself in color lines to show that they push onto that spine line. So it becomes a flowing river, or whatever you want to see in it. And this was one I think you remember. I think all that's a bit clearer. Sky and land and the body. The bum here.
I think that was just fine. And what I wanted to say about all these works is that I remember now the feeling I had when you explained all these pressures to me. And I'm feeling it again now, is I think in our obsession with survival and just getting through life, and just our consciousness of keeping this vessel alive, you know, we forget our environment. And when you show the pressure that there is on our body and everything around us, I get an incredible empathy for our challenges. And it makes me a bit humble, you know. I'm part of a very big picture. That picture. My little body is just a line in it. So, yeah.
I want to show you a better picture.
Okay.
Yes. I think the best of that lot. I don't think you've ever seen it. Do you agree? It's better.
I have seen that. I get that chasm there. It's very moving.
Are you
Are
saying?
you not going to talk to us about the relationship between the deep chasm between the two white mountains? That's also the spine.
It is the spine, and this spine is differently drawn from that one because it is evaporating into top and bottom, as you can see it. And the lines have to keep it together. So the body have to keep us together, otherwise our minds fly off. And the balance between that white and this white is very, very fine. A little more there or a little more here,
I think you need to explain to me more what you mean about the body keeping what together. What's the top and what's the bottom, and what's that grey thing in the middle?
The grey thing in the middle for me represents the dividing line between top and bottom, left and right. It's the spine, and that is the top buttock, the bottom buttock, extending into the sky, in the air, extending, resting on the ground. As the body goes up, some shoulder marks and some legs.
But what bottom and what top? What do you mean by bottom and top? Do you mean that you've deconstructed the spine and just made it much bigger than the body? And what does that top represent? The top of the body, or the top of the world, or the bottom of the world and the bottom of the body?
That represents how the shoulders start disappearing into space. It's just a suggestion. I don't think we need. I think when we see the bigger part and the waist, and again it extending, and that with rounder shapes tapering. That's enough to indicate feet, and that's enough to indicate the top goes that way. That's how I felt. I hope you don't find it disturbing, but it can be disturbing. But careful not to look too much for the old object, because I don't want to draw him moving or her.
No, I think no. This work pretty much doesn't allow that because, yeah, the object, the body has become so deconstructed, but you can't deny that it's there because it's so red. And all these tensions between background and whether it's just a background and whether it's the earth, this painting drives me crazy. I love it. I remember the last time I saw it, it stayed with me for a long time.
Oh, dankie toch.
So believe it or not, we've just actually been jumping around between things for an hour. And
It's always like that
well,
with you. Time goes, time flies.
I think we can often, our minds can now also deconstruct the work that you do, and we can visit the object and the background and the relationships between them. But I think sometimes when we just stand next to the painting with you and just feel the poetry is when we really experience it. But I think I always challenge you to come out of all those lofty ideas. Talk to us about now. How does this relate to this world that we're in? Not the earth. We've spoken about the earth, right? The sky and the ground and the bodies that are pressuring. But this world that we made, how do we navigate that inside of what you're teaching us? Like, what is Corona bringing us? How do we look at your paintings and find messaging in it for what the time of Corona? What must we do?
You know, I think Corona is coming at the right time. It is making us look inside and not so much outside, because there is nothing to look at outside so much, because we are in our homes and in our bodies. And I think it can only, in the long run, of course, can drive people crazy too, but in the long run, I think it can only produce a different kind of human being that is ready to look at finer things. Not the things they used to, they see every day, they do every day, but finer things. I think so. In fact, I believe so. And
I
you're
think on
right.
one of our previous sessions, you said something like, your work or work, any art, hopefully the art that we are interested in, makes for increased awareness and respect. And in that process, it shows us the proof of evolution, and that we are becoming more aware of who we are and where we are and what we're doing, and to see the finer things. And so we can move upwards. I'm quoting. And you said Corona is an awareness process, showing us new relationships between the players that are in your work, the body, the earth, the world we make. And they both are moving. The one isn't negative and the other positive, but all this movement makes a sharpening of our awareness.
Yeah, you see,
Your word.
you see, in the painting, it all came about through that background becoming a different language in the painting, a different plastic language, coming in, drawing it in, making it active. Comes from Cubism. And in human life, the moment I became aware of that tenuous relationship between this new space shapes and the old remains of the object, then we are straight away on the human object level. And then it just flashed through my mind, of course, it applies to the human, as you've just indicated. The human being has, like the painter and his objects, the object received the background as a static, old background that's been used through the ages. Now, we're at a turning point, it seems to me, and the background has now become part of us because we are dependent on it. We see it in life. But painting showed me these ways in a pretty clear way. But we are not independent, we are interdependent. And you were so right when you said a moment ago how it was. I mean, there was no respect left. I don't know. I think respect is coming back, will be coming back slowly, but people had no respect. Look at politics, not only here, the world over. Look at how people were going after luxury. That was more important than anything else. Look at advertisements, what they stress. All the momentary and the fleeting. And that's not all. Life's not only about that. Life's about ever so much more. I mean, we've got all the beautiful things to enjoy too. All the beautiful things, there are so many possible, metaphors that in one picture or one poem or one sentence can call up many other awarenesses that can make you, can feed your mind, can feed your heart, can make you happy, can make you see further, can give you a bit of insight. And insight is linked to wisdom. It's a beautiful thing. But the world will always exist of all kinds of different people, but maybe with more respect that we should all have. Without balance, we are becoming what some of us are now. With balance, we're becoming better human beings. And that's what we're all here for. And that is what all the churches preach too. Become a human being, a proper human being with respect and caring and loving one another and, caring.
I think earlier, sometimes when you talk, then something recycles into my mind that I didn't express well earlier, my understanding, so that I can reflect it back. And I'd like to go back to that body that's standing next to you, that's driving me crazy. And that is the consciousness that these body paintings brought for me is that I'm not this closed vehicle. I am a vulnerable creature inside of the world that I'm in. And that if I don't have that consciousness, I won't survive. And you somewhere in your talks, you also talked about the tension of holding a breath. And I think that's what that work does for me. But I also want to bring something that when we were busy working on the body book, I asked you, I said, great, you used the horses and the birds to show us movement. It was kind of obvious. Wow, there the horse gallops and there goes the bird. It's obvious you're showing us movement. But why use the body? Because all these bodies are standing still. And here's what you said. You observe the surface of the body like you observe the surface of a canvas. You use the surface of the body to try and enter it in search of currents and tensions. Tensions, balances, and communications about the interrelations and relationships in the body. There are clues of interrelatedness that are there in the observation of the body. There's dualities when it comes to the body. And then we argued about femininity and masculinity and whether they can only sit in a male body or a female body, but that's a whole nother discussion. So what you said is the feminine is the receptacle, rounded, and that's opening up to the top. A seated, sturdy woman, a mother figure. And the masculine is lean and pointed and almost skeletal. It's a different power, a penetrating power, where the female is a soft receptacle. And so we'll argue about who gets to have the female and the male in another discussion, but I get it. The feminine and the masculine is two of the pressures that's also inside of the body. and coming from outside in the society that we live in. Just thought I'd bring gender into that a bit. So I don't know, is there anything else that you'd like to show us before we run off and go live these lives that we have to be mindful about?
I think I've shown you so much, maybe you've seen enough now.
Never enough.
Anything you can think of, I'll pull it out.
Maybe just one more thing. I mean, Sally's over. This is the thing about working at home, is our partners hear all the things we're doing. And Sally heard us talk. You talk about balance and tension, and that balance and tension isn't always the perfect two things like this. There's sometimes a long tension, and I thought of that horse picture with that long leg that goes across like that. And I was wondering if we could look at that again and talk about tension.
Well, I look at that one and I think of a very gentle, tenuous but gentle tension, and that one of a more stretching one, a more forceful one. That's the way I feel. Here you get volume with thin little lines indicating where there was volume. Here you get volume trying to show bulk, I think.
What is the background doing in that picture of the horse?
Oh, the background. It is also, in my mind, flowing. If you look at those little bits of color there, and here, it's as if it is isolating, not isolating, but focusing on this part of the air which he is entering. And this is what he leaves behind. You get it there. It points that way, picks up there, goes there and down a bit. He's entering his own space, or making his own entry into that space.
So for us all, we're going to end off here, except if there's more you want to do. But it's just, again, the challenge that you leave us with. You gift us with the broken, open, deconstructed object. But our challenge is to make that out of focus and look at the environment behind it. And so both with this horse and with the body that is in front, what goes on behind those lines is what is so important, and we have to become still to become conscious of that. It's a much harder lesson that we also have to practice in the world today, is to become less conscious of ourselves, not unconscious,
Heavens
but
no.
our relationship to our environment.
I think you're so right, because on the human level, it agrees 100% as it did with the painting.
And in that discovery, we will find the spiritual, right? In the discovery of the relationship between the two.
Yes, those fine relationships, so fine. Just imagine if people didn't have balance. I mean, we've seen enough of it, but it could even be so much more. It's frightening. But let's not leave on a frightening note. It's going to disappear, not disappear, but to a great extent diminish. Let's hope.
Okay, I can go on and on, but I think we could probably end. Is there something you want to leave us with as before we end this all?
Thank you very much. Thank Jessie very much. Thank Lizelle very much. And whoever else may be there, for you, for listening, because I'm trying to make myself a little bit clearer, but I need you people with your words that are so much better. I've said before, I can write down a little bit better, but speaking is definitely not my strong point. Thank you all so much.